So please remember that you're not alone and that you have a lot of great resources at your disposal to make sure you get through graduate school successfully. Hi everyone, welcome to Tidy TV, where I bring the classroom to you. I'm Hannah John, and today I'm going to talk about how you can deal with imposter syndrome as a grad school student. Stay tuned. So a few days ago, I actually had the chance to meet with some of our wonderful faculty, professors over at our department, and we had a great time talking about you. No, enjoying one another's company, but also talking about what's been going on within our department and of course with our students. Now, just as a side note, we don't talk specifically about any one particular student, so your confidentiality is all guaranteed. But of course, we do want to talk about some of the things that you're going through as a graduate school student, and especially any of the difficulties that you're kind of facing, especially for us as faculty, because we do want to try to help you and be supportive of you during your journey. So one of the topics that actually came up was that some professors had thought that, a few students have been going through quite a bit of difficulty during these times, especially because of COVID-19 and a lot of the kind of isolation that you might be facing, and also especially for some of our international students who might be far away from family and friends. Now, adding to this difficulty can also be because you're at a graduate program. We have a lot of brilliant, bright students from all over the world, and oftentimes what we end up facing, I'm thinking of me when I was a graduate student, is that you do end up comparing yourself with other students who are out there who you might think might be more qualified or much brighter or much more prepared for graduate school. So when we talk about imposter syndrome, I want to stress that this is not restricted to the graduate school environment, but because many of my viewers are in graduate school or are preparing to go to graduate school, this is certainly an issue that you do face, especially because there are such high achievers and such bright, outstanding students within the graduate school environment. So imposter syndrome is this idea that essentially you feel like a fraud, that you're not quite up to par with those around you, and that you're trying to, I don't know if this is the right word, but maybe fake it till you make it kind of mentality, and that you're trying to prove yourself that you're qualified to be there and to be among the company of those bright students or bright professionals that you see around you. So the question is, how best can you deal with imposter syndrome if you feel that you have some of the symptoms? There might be no easy answer, but I think the first thing that might be of a little bit of comfort is to make sure that you know that you're not alone. Regardless of your background, your age, your experience, you'll always feel a little bit inadequate, and that's, I think, just kind of human nature, because we're not perfect and there are areas that we would like to improve on, and most importantly because you're students and you came into this environment exactly for the purpose of learning. So I think for younger students, especially those coming straight out of undergraduate programs, you might find that there are students with extensive, say, professional experience. Maybe some other students have already done a master's program and they're coming to start their PhD program over here at this university. And so by comparison, you feel that you haven't actually achieved as much, perhaps as the other students around you, that you don't know as much, you haven't experienced as much. And so from that perspective alone, you might feel a bit of inadequacy and wondering whether or not you really do fit in among these other students. Now, on the flip side, some of our older students might come in, they might have more experience in the field, they might have, say, other academic experience in a master's program at another university, but they might come and look at some of the younger students and say, oh my goodness, they're so young, and they're here, they're already starting the master's program. I haven't been in school for years, and you don't know quite how well to adjust to this new environment, and because you're older and you have more experience, you feel this kind of burden of responsibility that you should know more and that you have to overachieve and to show that kind of experience in the classroom environment. So in that way, it almost feels like a lose-lose situation. Because you're young, you feel inadequate, but for some of the older students, you don't have kind of the youth and vitality of younger students, and so you feel that there's more to prove in that respect. And so I hope it does give you a little bit of kind of comfort knowing that you're not alone in thinking that you might not be as best prepared or adequate given your own circumstances. And I think this idea of imposter syndrome, or that you don't quite really belong, or that even in the worst case scenario you feel that you're a fraud for being there, I think it really doesn't end at graduate school. Perhaps it just really starts to get much more noticeable during your graduate school years. You might be able to feel it as you go into the marketplace, as you begin your professional careers, or as you advance in your professional careers, and even among faculty. I think, just to be really honest, I'm sure that all of the faculty, myself included, have felt this at some point or another. So what are some ways to deal with imposter syndrome, or this idea that you're not quite as adequate or that you don't really belong. I think the best answer here is to try not to compare with others, especially for the example that I mentioned earlier, even with age. Regardless of where you start, whether you're a younger student or an older student, you bring that experience and those benefits and those strengths, I think, of your position, but you also do notice those areas where you feel that you're lacking. And so I think the first thing that we don't want to do is to compare our own experiences with others as if you're stacking up, putting your credentials line by line against your fellow students. I think for some it might actually be, a kind of friendly competitiveness or even motivation for you to do even better or to succeed even more. But I think for most of us, it might actually be a source of discouragement. So I know for many of our students, you might have friends or other colleagues that have published papers, that are presenting international conferences, that are preparing for their dissertations or even dissertation defenses, and you might not be there yet. Please don't be discouraged, but try to find something that works for you in the timeline that you have crafted for yourself. The last thing I would do is also to talk with your advisor or a trusted professor. I think this is my advice for almost any problem that you might be facing during graduate school. Hopefully your faculty are there to be supportive of you. For many reasons we are super cautious, but we are very open to you reaching out to us, at least the professors that I know. And again, we don't really know the issues that are at hand unless you come to us and you say so. When you do talk with your advisor, and within perhaps the context of the imposter syndrome, that you feel that you're not quite adequate or prepared compared to your peers, this might actually be a good starting point to talk with your advisor or, again, a trusted professor. What are some things that you could do just in terms of assessing your progress so far within your graduate program from an objective point of view? How well have you been progressing so far? And what are some things that you can do concretely, either this semester, during the holidays, or in future semesters that will help you build up the kind of credentials that you would like to during your graduate school program? It's also really nice to have a confidant who is not your peer, because again, a lot of this imposter syndrome happens because we're comparing ourselves to our peers. So please do reach out to a trusted professor, faculty member who might be able to work with you and to guide you as best and as confidentially as possible. So I do want to say that, of course, it's natural to feel that you don't quite really belong, that you feel a little bit inadequate compared to your peers, especially when you think that they're doing so well. But please know that you're not alone, and please know that perhaps comparing might not be the best for your situation, and also know that you have resources at your disposal to help you along your journey. So I hope you're feeling more encouraged, and I look forward to seeing you here next time on Tari TV. Bye!